I'm going to show you just a little bit of the maintenance that I've got to do on this. It's time for a water change. Pull out some of the algae. I know a lot of you have seen this 100-gallon Rubermaid tub. And I'll show you some of the things I've done, or talk about some of the things I've done since it's been sitting out here in the front yard for the last couple months now, I guess, maybe pushing 2 months. And just some of the little bit of the what goes on in here and what's in here. So let's go see. All right, check out the difference. You can see plastic starting to show on the sides there, and in the light, blocking the sun. But golly, those things really did a job. That side over there is almost spotless. Dropped a bunch of water lettuce in here. The rice fish seem okay. I've seen a shrimp or two. I thought I'm going to put some shrimp out here. So those are yellow goldenback shrimp. They're sitting here. I'm acclimating them. They've been floating like that for about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And I'm adding a little water at a time, kind of like this. And they're about ready to release. There's only 6, so, you know, to find them, that would be tough. But they got to show themselves. So they'll come up on something. That's when I'll see them. I'm doing a water change right now, and one of the things I got to do is make sure that the water, there's still a lot of that algae floating up in the roots, is not coming out a whole lot faster than that thing can drain. That's that screen from a Graco airless paint sprayer, the pickup tube, and that algae gets on there and blocks it. So anyway, and that's just a garden hose fitting right there. So it's a 3/4 pipe thread into this 3/4 inch bulkhead. And then this is garden hose thread. And so is this garden hose thread. So it just threads right in there. God, I wish I had a little GoPro right now. I don't want to turn my phone into one because that would suck. Yeah, so they're catching a lot of that stuff. And once in a while I'll come through and, look at that. So I just pull all that out and pitch it over here into the landscape, and that's okay. And maybe, don't forget, we got to check this once in a while, make sure that no algae gets sucked into the pump. But it works pretty good. And then I said that you want to make sure the water doesn't flow in faster than it's going to flow out. Otherwise, it's going to up and over. And I don't want any fish going up and over. There's one of the little rice fish in between there. There it is. So it looks like there's 2 different ones, platinum rice fish and orange rice fish. I ordered platinums and I got half and half. I think maybe they didn't have enough, and so they sent what they had. And there's still the jungle valves down here. You can see little bits and pieces of the leaves. Probably better if I wasn't in the light. I don't know if that's any better or not. And there's some guppy grass bits in here. I put some of that in here. It'd be nice to be able to put some sort of a big filter on here to kind of clean it out. But usually after I do a water change, everything settles and it looks really nice. Oh God, there's still just a wad of that tied into the guppy grass. But do that too, that helps. And that's gonna show off the jungle valve down there. So once it starts getting a light to it again, and now the water's warming up, it should take off. But you can see how much of that nasty green algae there is. I'm not sure what prompted it. I think somebody suggested maybe birds dropped it in, I suppose. I don't know where they would have gotten it around here. We are in a desert. There's not a lot of standing water. There is they call it a retention basin around the block here. So when it rains, and sometimes when it rains, I mean, it just dumps. And all the gutters go into that retention basin. So then it just goes, from there it goes to the Whitewater River. And I guess there's spots on Whitewater where there is still some standing water, but we haven't had any rain here. I guess there's been rain in the hills. We've had some storms come through. We didn't get any of the rain though here. So I'm gonna let the water come up and over. And here, let me show you what else I do. Let me get a net.
No, if we had 2 Perrys, We could put a net between them and play platypus badminton. Who's a net? Ferd, that's it. I know what we're gonna do today. No, seriously, who's a net?
Because she's just right here. I'll use that to just catch out some of the smaller floating bits. Kind of help encourage the cleanup as best I can. And there was that jungle val that was flowering in here last fall. I still see the remnants of the flower spikes, but that should help. Pick up the root pieces of water lettuce roots that broke off and pick up all that algae stuff that's floating around, kind of separate. So hopefully the water lettuce will help water quality. I don't think the water quality is bad, but I'll be real honest with you, I don't check it. I suppose I probably could take out the API test kit, check for nitrates and such. There's another little water lettuce on the edge there that will give it a chance. That was it right there, this poor little piece. It'll straighten itself back out. Getting a lot of flowers falling in too. There's one. It's from this Madagascar jasmine vine right here. Pretty. It's not as fragrant as the star jasmine, but it is pretty. So there's leaf litter that falls in. There's one of the medacas right there. They're cruising around. See, now the water's starting to come up to the overflow, and once it does, it should start coming out the back side here. And there's another one of the medacas over there against the side, right over there. One of the orange ones. I'm waiting to see fry. Hopefully I'll get some. I think I've heard other people say, and I think Scotty has loads of fry in his tub, so hopefully I will too before too long. This is just starting to fill in now with the plants, and I had all these dwarf water lettuce in a tub in the garage, and I brought them all out here. I think I started with, I don't know, 4 or 5, and then I brought another 4 or 5, and yesterday I think I brought about a dozen out here. I don't know, there's a bunch. So ideally they'll start spreading out, and they'll eventually cover completely the surface of this tub. I imagine they'll get fried a little bit too as the heat starts kicking in. There's a little spider plant there that's been struggling. It looks like a new leaf or a couple new leaves, and there's new roots underneath it. I picked those up yesterday. Let's see. The new roots are real white, or whiter anyway. They're the ones in the center there, the shorter, stiffer ones. And I'm blocking that little, I don't know, what do you call it? It's a little filter pump, I guess, a little fountain. It moves the water. When the sun's shining on it, it moves the water. So there's rice fish down in the deeps, all the way down there. And there's one right there, one of the orange ones. I still would like to see a couple shrimp pop out. That would be cool, because otherwise they're just making a liar out of me, I know. But I put the yellow golden back shrimp in here. And maybe I'll put a few more in now that, you know, this thing's been sitting here for a while. I think that'd probably be a good idea. We can put a couple more, maybe another half a dozen or so. They're doing pretty well. They're in a 20-gallon tank in the garage. There should be enough of them to spare. I hate sending them to their death, but I don't think that'll happen. I think the water's good enough for them now. I think it'll do fine. Waiting for the water to start to come out the overflow so I can show you that. Here's the other side of it anyway. Right here, that's the bulkhead. I drilled through, put that in. Had to get a hole saw to do it. And ideally, the nice thing about using a screen like that, and I've seen others, is that'll keep the fish from coming out, and that'll also keep shrimp from coming out, assuming we ever get loads of shrimp in here. And I fully expect to, once they're happy, they'll start multiplying. There's a second tub in there too, and that one had Amazon sword in it. That one's down about here. The other tub, the first tub's the one with the jungle val. They're alive, but I don't think any of the Amazon sword survived over the winter. I think the water just got too cold for them. And then being covered with that green algae probably did not help either. Shouldn't be long. Jungle val will come up to the surface and go nuts. And I'll come up with something else to put in that tub. I'm thinking about seeing if I can find a pond lily somewhere around here and put a pond lily in there. And I was thinking about, you know, putting water hyacinths in here too. There's somebody, I found them on eBay. I might just opt in for some water hyacinths. They'll spread across the top of this really fast, and then they flower, and they're pretty. You know, that would probably, is supersede the right word? The dwarf water lettuce. I'd get that out of here and just let the water hyacinth go nuts. This whole thing's just been a work in progress. This is my first tub ever. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that's okay. I'm just trying to get it figured out. Usually, I don't know if it's usually or not. There's times where this water is absolutely crystal clear right to the bottom. And it's cloudy now, so I'll let this run. It was about 4 inches low. Yeah, maybe not quite that much. But once, oh, here we go. It's starting to run out now. And once, I'm gonna let it run for about an hour. And I don't even think that'll be a 50% water change. And then when I'm done running it, I'll set a timer so I don't forget it. And then when I'm done, I'll drop in. I let the water settle back down so it stops draining, so that the flow or the surface of the water gets below the overflow here. And then after that's settled out, then I'll put the dechlorinator in here. And I don't think the chlorine's as big a deal as the chloramines, because the chlorine will gas off quickly here. Dechlor help break down the chloramines. And I might even try the old vitamin C thing that I'd heard about. It's supposed to be 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C per 40 gallons of water. So this is just short of 100 gallons because it's not full to the top. If I was to use that, I would use 340. Yeah, because that would be 4 times 3, 120 gallons. I've got a little mortar and pestle. Mortar and pestle, and grind it up, and then put it in a cup of water and let it completely dissolve, and then just pour that in and see how that works. See the rice fish, they're active. That's kind of neat. So maybe it won't be long before I get little rice fish fry. They'll be able to spawn in those little scrubby mops. I'm gonna have to clean those out there. They're full of that nasty green algae. There's also, all the roots from the dwarf water lettuce. That's all, I think, fair candidate material for egg laying. I know this has just been a rambling video. I'm gonna go edit it and get rid of a lot of the ums and ahs and the big spaces. See bubbles coming up here. Let's go see what's going on there. Coming off the garden hose, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know if I said it or not. I put the clamp on it here because otherwise the garden hose ends up on the ground. I'll come back in an hour and it's been on the ground for most of the time probably. That's that stuff. Yeah, I was picking it all out with my hands and I found the net works a whole lot better. All right, well, it's been an hour and obviously I hit the water flow pretty well. So it never went past the overflow there. So let's shut the water off. It's a lot clearer. Should settle nicely, I hope. We'll get the water over here. Shut that off, shut that off. We got one of those splitters there so we can run it 2 different directions, one at a time. And then we can get the garden hose out of there. And we'll just let that settle down, let the water flow out. See, and all this overflow just goes into the shrubbery. It's out back here. And we'll let that flow out until it's leveled off, and then I'll put that vitamin C in there. We'll see how that works. So when I was talking about the chlorine and chloramines, something that just hit me was, how do you test for that? And I guess there's actual dedicated test things. I saw one on a little video that I just watched. Use a vial, put drops in, and it goes into like a little reader, and it gives you a numerical value, which is kind of cool. But one of the things it suggested was test strips. Let's go look. All right, so I searched Google, and the AI bot said what I put was testing for chloramines in an aquarium, and what it went on to say, use a test kit that measures both total chlorine and free chlorine. If the total chlorine is significantly higher than the free chlorine, it indicates the presence of chloramines. All right, well, I've got this little, it's a pool test kit here because we have a swimming pool. And it says stick the test strip, there's the test strip, into the water for 2 seconds, pull it up with the little bumps face up, and then shake it off, and then measure it. Well, all right, so here we go. I did. This is what I got. And so what's it say? If the total chlorine is significantly higher. Well, the total chlorine is, let's get to where you can actually see this. Hopefully you can. Is this row, TCl, total chlorine, and FCl, free chlorine, all right? So it's the free chlorine. So the free chlorine's at the top, and it's at the top of this test strip, and I figure it's pretty much 0. And then the free chlorine, I'm thinking, is 1. So, I'm sorry, the total chlorine is 1. The free chlorine is 0. So that should indicate, because there's more total chlorine, and the way I understand it, the free chlorines bind to the total chlorines, which are probably ammonia, makes the total chlorine, which makes the chloramine, which is a chlorine ammonia bond of some sort. My chemistry is rough because it's been a long time. So anyway, this implies or indicates that there is in fact chloramines in my city water here. So I'm going to try the vitamin C thing, and hopefully, the fish survive and the shrimp survive. We'll give it a shot. So this is the vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams. It's probably a whole lot less expensive than the tap water conditioner or any of those products. I know somebody talks about the C-Chem and how that's pretty inexpensive. So I'm going to put 3 of those in there. And I'm going to run hot water. And pardon the sink. But I think the hot water will help dissolve these quicker. And they're not going in the tub until they're dissolved. And one thing I should probably do too is check the pH of the tub. It's probably going to be about 7.5 because that's what we've got around here. We'll stir this up until, ideally, they should just dissolve in this hot water. We'll take that with us. All right, well, the water stopped draining out of the back. And this is 3 1,000 milligram tablets of ascorbic acid, vitamin C. And I am going to pour this in here, and hopefully it will take care of any chloramines in here. So here goes. I'm going to stir it around a little bit. And that should do the trick. It never occurred to me to just look at this thing. There's pH right there, and that's the really red one, or purple or whatever, so it's high. I don't know. It's every bit of 7.8, so I know we have high pH. So, and I know test strips aren't necessarily the greatest way to check pH, but it's high, so it's right in there, 7.8 to 8.4. So that way I don't have to go get the API test kit out to do that, because that's a pain in the butt. And one thing I want to do is get the extra algae. I'm going to drop my phone in the water. Out of the way here. I got this silly little net. Why don't I use it? Get that algae out of the way here, because that just ends up plugging up the mesh. In fact, I can pull out a bunch of extra. Works pretty well. Yeah, and catch the roots from the water lettuce. Get the big wads of that. That'll just break down into the landscape, and it'll help feed the plants. So, and the little pump's just about done because we're running out of sunlight on this side of the garage. Now let's see what the water temperature is now too. We haven't looked at that. One of these little floaty jobs. Oh my, water temperature is about 83. It's come down a little bit just after I pulled it out, but it's about 83, so water temperature's coming up. We'll see what it does when things start really getting hot, because right now, I'll bet it's pushing 100 degrees. We'll see. If you haven't subscribed, do that if you would, please. It's free, costs nothing to hit that subscribe button. And you know what everybody else says, it really helps the channel grow. And it does, it really helps the channel grow. And thanks for looking.